Hey, welcome back everybody to the AHA Roundtable Talk session during AAPI month. It's a beautiful day in May today, so I'm looking forward to the weather. My name is Essence, and I'm at Walser Chevrolet in sales.
Thanks, Essence. Yeah, I'm Josh. I currently work for the Walser corporate finance team as a finance analyst. I've been with the group for about a little over 3 years now.
Well, I'm Song Wei. I'm a cosmetic manager over at the Reconditioning Center. I'm also the president of AHA, the Asian Hmong Alliance Employee Resource Group. I've been here for 8 years, and it is a wonderful day in May.
Hey everybody, I'm Steven. I work for the Reconditioning Center. I'm in the parts department. I have been with Walser for almost 16 years now.
So with 16 years here at Walser, what are some, cultural differences that you've seen, experienced?
With 16 years starting, especially over at Recon, I believe I was probably the third or fourth Hmong person that actually worked there. There was no other Asians besides me. Definitely it was a big change from what it is then to what it is now, because now pretty much our whole entire detail department consists of Hmong people. And definitely the whole entire Recon itself is really growing into a whole lot of every single department's got at least a handful of Asians or Hmong people that is working there. So definitely big growth, big growth.
Yeah, I remember when I sold at Toyota for a short stint, the guys at Recon were always just amazing to get things through the line real quick and get cars back to us so we can get it on the floor and sell it, and so it's really cool to hear that. I didn't know that the Recon team comprised mostly of Hmong people these days, so I think that's really cool.
It is.
So culture-wise, I wanted to bring this up a little bit more because what I wanted to achieve with this roundtable talk is, dive deeper into our identity and our cultural background. And I know that Josh and I were talking about like stereotypes of being Asian and being at the workplace. One thing that I encounter all through my life in the workplace is that Asian people don't know how to speak English.
For me, it's been, I grew up outside of the Hmong culture. I grew up in a little town called Red Wing, Minnesota. After my parents split up, and I was raised, I'm mixed. I'm half Hmong and half white, and so I lived with and was raised with my white side for the majority of my life. That being said, I grew up in a school with maybe 3 or 4 people that were actually Asian. With me being one of them, and I was the only Hmong person in that school. So people, they'd call me Chinese, they'd call me Japanese, and that's what I was. And I didn't have any identity because, growing up outside of the Hmong culture, I didn't really even know what it was to be Hmong. So I ended up just even saying that, yeah, I was Chinese, because I didn't know.
Josh, actually, I relate with you too, because growing up, I know we were talking about this, and I didn't want to be Hmong. You see, I know that a lot of what we think, we see through the media. And I wanted to be Chinese. I wanted to be Japanese because that's, those are the predominant
people know those.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. And then my thoughts started changing. It's like, why couldn't I have been like a white American, 6 feet tall, blonde hair, blue eyes, And then, like growing up, I struggled with a lot with identity itself too, both cultural and race and ethnicity too.
For me though, I do have an optimistic look on things, with that though. And it's like, I've spent the majority of my life being, I guess, pessimistic, and kind of irritated that I've been brought up and displaced in that sense, But as I grew and grew wiser and really delved into it, it's, rather than blaming other people, it's like, okay, let's take the hardships that we've gone through in life and let's shape it into a way that we can, use it for us and be stronger in the workforce in that sense. And I think that's like what a lot of the Hmong people are realizing these days, it's like, okay, that's what we need to do is we need to be a strong people, because our history, we've been through countless wars, countless, genocides, and J4 is to commemorate the Hmong freedom, finally getting out of all that stuff, coming to the US,
I think I fall into that category of our kids, so I am the kids. Yes, I am proud of my culture, and I do notice it with my generation too. It's more so we are accepting the cultural and all the traditions. So it's just kind of cool to see us taking pride in our culture and our identity while, growing away from those unhealthy habits and whatnot.
It almost feels like there's been kind of like a resurgence, with people wanting to, because I feel like my father, for instance, has told me one of their fears is that the culture and the practices and the traditions are going to be lost with the new generations coming up, being American.
To completely agree with you guys on that, I completely agree. Being a father, having sons of my own and having a daughter, I would love, I'd love for my daughter to believe that everybody's equally. Growing up being Hmong, it was always known that your father, your brothers ate first, and then the women's ate after. So it definitely was a cultural shock to us coming to Americanize it, Westernize it, and just to say, no, we all eat at the same table, we all eat equally. There's no one first, no one last. So definitely having kids of my own, daughters and sons, I definitely want to share that with them. But at the same time, I'm teaching the new ways to say no, it's okay, and I agree with you guys there, both of you guys.
So for me to bridge the different in cultures and expectations, I've been trying to, I almost separated, because growing up, we came home, we spoke Hmong. We went to school, we spoke English. When we came home, we spoke English, my parents got mad at us. When we went to school and we spoke Hmong, our classmates would tell us, speak English only. So then trying to bridge it, I don't know if I really understood how to bridge it. I just kept it separate. When I went to like my white American friends, I went to their gatherings. It's bring your own. It was like a NFL draft. And they're like bring your own brats, right? I'm like, why am I bringing my own brats, right? Like when you have a gathering at a Hmong house, your guests, they do not bring anything. They come there. And the person who's hosting, they provide all the food and all the drinks. So then I just kept it separate. For me to go up to my parents and hey, you need to tell our relatives, our friends and family that are coming over to bring their own stuff. We just don't do that. So I just kept it separate.
I can relate with you because it's been trying to basically I don't fit in anywhere. I don't fit in with my white family because I'm Asian, right? They see me as Asian, but I go to my Hmong family and they see me as white. So and it's been an interesting time for me, but it's I know they all mean the well and they all are accepting and they want me back in. They call me and stuff. And it's amazing, but it's something that I'm personally working on and figuring out myself.
I definitely want to agree. Add something to that, especially growing up, having the name Stephen was not very Hmong-nized or Asian. I definitely was, growing up it was a challenge because they were like, oh, are you American? I'm like, no, I'm not. Or you must be some kind of different Asian than being Hmong, because I'm like, well, why? Because you don't have your traditional Hmong name. I'm not. I was named Stephen. Growing up, they were like, oh, then you must be whitewash. You must be different. I'm like, no, I'm not.
Even you grew up in the house speaking
Correct.
Hmong is interesting.
I did. Yeah. But when you go outside of that, they're like, oh, you're Stephen. I'm like, yes, I am Stephen. Like, do you have a Hmong name? I'm like, no, I don't. And it's definitely a challenge. It was growing up. It was definitely like, well, I am Hmong. And I will always be categorized as Hmong, but just because my name doesn't say it, doesn't mean I'm not.
I kind of have the opposite story. I've had like 2 different times where someone, like, they will see my name, and my name is Essence. It's in the English dictionary, and they'll just go, so how do you actually pronounce your name? Essence? Oh, like the word. Yes, you got it. I don't know what it is. It's probably because I am Asian and they probably just see more Asian names to seeing Asian women around. So
you mentioned the war. I was wondering, not a lot of people know about the war, and to us, you can just say the war and we know what it is, but I'm curious if you could let people know what the war is and how it shaped the Hmong people and
Right. It's actually a very long story, but for just to break it down real quick, the Hmong people actually sided with the Americans during the Vietnam War, and it was actually a secret war that that they fought in. And then I know that my grandfather, my uncles, a lot of them were killed during that war. And then my parents, my father grew up fatherless. My mother grew up with her parents as well too. So then the war itself, it's a long and sad story, and that's where I ended up in the refugee camp, and it was just where it was a temporary housing to figure out what to do with all the displaced Hmong people. And so again, I know that in our first group they talked about like relatives being in other countries too, and that's what happened. When we first came here after the refugee camp, we actually came to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and then from there, we start hearing news of like, hey, we have family in Minnesota, so that we made the trek, came down here, and met up with families. We started living all together, like very close proximity to each other. So then, because that's what we did back in Laos and back in Thailand. It's like you live very close together because you rely on your family to help you through life. But what about you? Right?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's my father tells me a lot of stories. He was a really young child when it happened, but he still remembers, and he remembers the bombs. He remembers the death, and it's a very sad story. And not getting really into the nitty-gritty of it. The reason I bring it up, it's just to spread awareness. That the Hmong people aren't just an indigenous people that don't have their own state. They actually got up and stood up and were warriors for that side. And I think that's something to be mentioned and remembered for the Hmong people in the years to come.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to add to you when you mentioned that the elders today are still talking about it because they lived through it. And yes, because it's kind of sad because my grandma she still has trauma from it. So like when she goes to bed at night, nobody can be loud because that's when the bomb started going off, right?
Yeah.
At night, can't be loud. It's very traumatizing, and it's sad to see her still go through that. And then there's a lot more that I can't think of right now, but it definitely affects her, and then it affected her children, raising them growing up, and obviously that ports over to the next generation. And so generational trauma is what they call it. Yeah.
Because my dad actually fought in the war too. And yes, I know that he goes to therapy, and he still talks about that too. And his therapist does, spoke with me about it too. That they still have memories from that, and it still haunts them too. So yeah.
Even to this day, I believe a lot of them are still suffering so much mentally, physically, and now a lot of it has kind of come up with them. So it's really deteriorating their health from all of this. So I definitely see that it's definitely been a challenge for all of them.
What do you guys think is the next steps for the people to heal and to move forward from that?
Me personally, I want to say just to be not forgotten and to be remembered. But that's one of the biggest thing is for people to see and for people to remember that they were who they were, and not to be forgotten, and for just to be recognized.
Yeah, I agree.
Thanks so much for the opportunity, guys. It was amazing to sit down with you. I think that we covered a lot of topics, and I'm proud that we get to sit down here and have an ERG to ourselves here, and I'm excited for what comes next in the future.